So then we've, yeah, you said, I think the culture in that sense is a very interesting aspect that you describe. I heard you talk in the Mexican TV last Saturday on that. There was an event out there, and what is your feel as an athlete? What the team brings to the island and what the island brings to the team.
Right. Yeah. It's a good relationship. It took a bit of imagination to see it. Of course, again, being from North America, being your typical American with an understanding of what Cozumel offers. When it was first suggested that we're going to come down here and live for several months of the year to train. Pack the tequila and sombrero, right?
Yeah.
You can't be serious, right? Yeah. But then once you get down here and you interact with the locals, and you understand how the culture here just welcomes that sort of lifestyle.
Opens up a whole new.
It does. It's so conducive to what we're doing here. Waking up in the morning, and I live in Colorado, and it seems that people make a lot of exercise. It's like they all have to go to a gym, and they all have to change into a special outfit and put on special shoes and socks, and maybe that stuff's important, but living here and being around the culture is it's amazing, because you wake up and in the morning you've got ages 5 all the way up to 85 using the paths, or you go to the track and at 7 a.m. it's packed. And it's just great to see that and to be around it. You don't feel like you're interrupting anyone's process by training here. You're just part of it. And likewise, the TBB camp bringing maybe a different level of training or athlete to this area that they may have seen on TV. They've seen Mary win, and they've seen Andres, and they've seen these local athletes, and now they get a chance to talk to them, or get a chance to see them out on the road training or at the pool swimming, and
becomes more human.
It does. It interfaces, and I think at the end of the day we share that common link that really makes triathlon in general a special sport, in that the participant is the same whether you're age group, professional, you're young, you're old, this is your first one, this is your last one. We're all doing the course together, and it's a great dynamic down here to share that.
Yeah, what's interesting for me to hear you say this, Dan, is that so often triathlon not only can be very individualistic, can be a little bit selfish, and especially when you're on the pro level, very often you have very little choice, that it's about me, but so far I've heard you nothing say about that. It's talking about community, it's about inclusiveness, it's about integration with the local community. So it's actually very intriguing for me to hear you say that, because I think what you're describing very much describes very well our vision of providing hope and opportunity through sports. And you don't all have to be Chrissy Wellington or Greg Alexander, right?
Right. And it's funny you mentioned both those names, because in looking up to those athletes as I've come through the sport, one of the traits that I commend both of them on, and I've admired, is not only are they strong athletes on the race day, but they also value family, and they value sort of a life that both transcends sport but also uses sport as a tool to transcend other barriers. And if I can even contribute to that, I'll look back and consider that aspect to be a success. Of course, I also want to win the races.
No, but it's the combination, it's the balance. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. Now, then, I think one of the interesting things is for you to come in as an American athlete. I'm sure you heard stories before you joined teamTBB whether from Americans who joined us, some successfully for longer periods. I think Mary Beth is an amazing example.
Yeah.
Some who kind of like lasted 2 weeks and kind of like came to Thailand and thought, what the hell is that?
Sure.
When you have elephants walking by your morning hotel.
Yeah.
What was the preconception or the stories that you heard before you came?
You know, I've looked up to a very few, I guess, number of coaches over the last 8 years that I started. You first get in triathlon and you go to the store and there's 8 books by 8 different guys and which one's going to be the one that gets me to that whatever goal, and Brett doesn't have a book. He wasn't really even on my radar up until maybe the last 2-3 years when Chrissy came through, and that's what I would put to do basically being American. It's largely North American centered culture, and unless you put an athlete on top of podium in Kona, we don't know about you.
Yep.
And
it hasn't happened for a while.
And exactly, and I think when I started looking to go to that next level as an athlete, and I started talking to different coaches, I was becoming disenfranchised with what a lot of them were offering. A lot of people want to offer you, the moon and the stars, and I can get you there, I can get you there, and I took them up on their word and beat my head against the wall. And after a while, you just kind of pull back and say, well, what else is there? I got to do something different, and you don't know what you don't know either.
Yeah.
So when the opportunity came along to work with Brett, I seized it because for the first time it looked completely different than anything else.
Yeah.
Now, with that said, preconceived ideas of coming down here, I made I guess a step with purpose not to build any ideas, to basically come downhill blank slate.
Yep.
And so when I came down, and I'll still remember it, November 10th, I arrive, and I don't know who's picking me up at the airport. I don't know where I'm going to stay. I don't really even know what I'm going to be doing down here. I brought my bike, I brought my shoes, and I brought my swim goggles, and I was just prepared to do whatever needed to be done. I wanted to make a good impression, of course, but I also wanted to get a sense of what the dynamic was, and it didn't take long. Within a day, I was already writing home saying, this is where I belong.
Cool.
This makes sense. Cozamel's great. Already feeling the vibe of the island, already feeling the vibe of the team, and it wasn't a hard decision after that to go back to my full-time job and say, let's discuss options, and then come back here full-time in February.
Correct. You actually, interesting combination, because your full-time job is what then?
Full-time job. Yeah. Well, I worked for Training Peaks, which is an online software tool, and very data-driven. We have a joke around the office is if it wasn't recorded, it didn't happen. Which couldn't be further from what the mentality is around camp. But again, that's what I really appreciate about having that sort of dichotomy in my life is as I know the value of data to a lot of people out there, and I nothing wrong with that. If someone needs that, that's
Absolutely.
and that's how I started in the sport.
Well, then, and I think we can do a little plug here that on teamTBB Coaching, Training Peaks is our standard software.
Exactly.
And we're very grateful to Keith Watson and
Yep.
And the whole crew out there for, first of all, bringing us great products, and secondly for bringing us you.
Yeah. Well, and that's it. Is I still do a little bit of work part time as it comes along, and there's a lot of value in doing that work for myself, and not monetarily. It's just pure. It gets back to what I was talking about earlier about that pure essence of what the sport is. I get a customer who says, I'm training for my first 5K. I've never done anything before.
Yep.
How do I start?
Yeah.
And, to sort of interface with someone like that directly, someone that I probably would never have gotten a chance to talk to, is very rewarding.
Yeah.
And whether that's through channels of TBB or that's through Training Peaks. It doesn't matter
No,
because it's all great.
It's one big family.
Absolutely.
And we appreciate the relationship with them actually. Yep. Then what's your plan for the next 2-3 months? Racing, training. Do you even know what you're going to do, or is that still the same old secret?
Yeah. I believe the expression is that's the $1 million question. Of course, we know better. But yeah, I think at this point I can confidently say I'll be doing my first race as a TBB athlete May 5th, which will be in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Great.
And it's an Olympic distance, part of the Rev 3 series.
Yep.
Brett and I have discussed some options after that. Memphis in May will probably be another one I do, and then a good focus on halves. I've got to work on my swim and bring that up to a class level before I can really seriously consider doing well at Olympic distance races. But with my bike developing and my run being what it is, I can confidently go to most of your half Ironmans and maybe even a full Ironman, and shake things up a little bit and get competitive with those guys. And so down the road, I can't give exact details, but it'll probably include mostly half Ironmans.
Yeah. Talking about competitive, obviously the races are full of that, but I guess here on the run track with your training buddies, you have quite a bit of competitiveness just right about around you already, isn't it?
I tell you, it's refreshing, but it can also be humbling sometimes. It's showing up, and the beauty about being down here is, again, so much of what I've done in the past has been numbers based, and so you ask me how my day went, and I'll say it went good, and I'll give you a number, and showing you why it was good. And if it was bad, then I'll give you a number. And being down here and just looking at the guy next to you, and seeing what he's feeling like, seeing how you're feeling, and just kind of working off that energy. I could probably tell you what we're doing on the track, just based on feel, but at the end of the day, just getting out there and pushing with those guys has been absolutely the most rewarding part about being down here.
And that's what we often hear about the camps. And so who should have some feathers in their cap for challenging you here on the course and training?
Yeah, well, I'd like to say that Todd Skipworth and Brett Carter and Andres, they challenged me in the pool, but when it comes to swimming, I'm just challenging myself right now. I'm not at the level where I can even hang on their feet for a lot of the sets that we do. So in the pool, it's very much just working on my own, which kind of sounds counterintuitive. It's like, well, you're at a camp, why would you not be? But Brett's been really good at just letting me focus on what I need to do when it comes to the swim, and not having me up in my head about, I'm slower than Skippy today. Well, that's just the reality. He's been swimming for almost 20 years more than I've been.
Yeah, I've heard about the 100-kilometer weeks.
Exactly,
and stuff like that, so.
exactly. And it's not to say that's discouraging to me, but it's just the reality of what it is. On the bike though, we've had some just knockdown, drag out sessions, and that's been amazing. We did one the other day that was basically building on hours. So you start an hour at roughly Ironman pace, and then you build to just a little under half Ironman, and then you basically end it with everything he got. And Todd, when he first arrived, he was maybe a little underdone on travel, and hadn't quite been up to the training that we were doing here, and so I was able to sort of get the best of him on those. And in the last week or so,
you left the rowing boat.
Yeah, we're seeing what old Skippy can do, and so it's been fun. And Brett Carter, to his credit as well, just coming off Ironman Los Cabos, he can throw down some really strong efforts on the bike. And then when it comes to the run, boy, depending on the day, right? It's funny how you look at the big picture and you realize what you're actually doing, and then if you look at specific sessions, you can say that was a good session or a bad session. but in context, everything's a good session because it's all building towards something greater. And so I would say I've had maybe 2 or 3 bad sessions under the context that you know, I wasn't hitting good numbers, or you know, I got dropped. But yeah, the other day when Skippy came past me on a all out kilometer effort, I was eating a little crow. I was having a hard time with it, but again, it's all about what I'm here to do.
Correct.
You know, and and shortly after that, just got on with it, moved on, and you know, I licked him at the next 5K. So that's all that matters. Yeah.
Dan, it's been great chatting. We'll definitely chat more. Wish you a good, solid final training block here in Cozumel, and then look forward to see you some of the US events.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Appreciate the time, Alex.
Okay then, thank you.
Thanks.